if you wouldn't mind kind of explaining, because I think when a lot of people think of astrology, they think of their sun sign and what's happening with their sun sign. But when you get access to your natal chart, it opens up a whole new world that you may be completely unaware of. So how would you describe a person's natal chart?
Your chart is going to show every area of your life. It's represented there. It's going to show your past lives. It's going to show your challenges in this lifetime. It's going to show your early childhood, your parents, children. It's going to talk about love. What kind of partner are you attracted to? What makes you feel loved? It'll talk about health, careers that you're good in. How do you search spiritually? What kind of hobbies do you have? How do you handle money? What kind of challenges or successes might you see? Literally, if you can name it, it's going to be the chart.
And essentially a natal chart is a snapshot of where the planets were at the moment of your birth, correct? Okay. So, and that in turn, and I believe, as I recall, I think in terms of your rising sign, which is the sign that's on the ascendant of your chart, okay, that changes every few minutes, right? Doesn't that?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
And that's why time of birth is so important. It doesn't mean I can't run a chart for you or you have a reading if you don't know your birth time. I've done lots of readings without a birth time. But that birth time is going to pinpoint that sign that is rising on the eastern horizon when you were born. And that in turn is going to talk about where all the other signs and planets are in the chart. So it is important. And if you have it to the minute, always share that with your astrologer. And whether it's AM or PM.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to make that point because I know when you're reading your horoscopes, a lot of astrologers recommend that you read your ascendant sign if you know it, as well as your sun sign. Would you agree with that? Okay.
And I do say that. Yeah, okay. I agree with you.
Okay. So both sun sign and ascendant, if you happen to know what your ascendant sign is, or your rising sign.
Yeah.
Those are the
and
same
your
thing.
Moon. Your sun,
okay.
Your moon, and your rising sign.
Okay.
If you know all three, I would read all three if you're reading predictions. Because sometimes I've read my sun and went, not really. But then I'll read my moon, I'll be, there, right there. Like it's spot on.
Yeah.
We're just sometimes more in tune with another part of our chart.
Yeah. Okay. Well, since this podcast really kind of focuses more on relationships, I thought since we don't have, I could sit and talk astrology for hours, but since we have limited amount of time, I thought we might kind of focus on how to use your chart in terms of relationships and what planets to look for in terms of how you show up in relationships, what cycles might look like, that kind of thing.
When we are looking, or when I as an astrologer, I'm looking at a chart in terms of love. And I will tell you, that is the first thing everybody's asking me. I don't care if you're old or young or black or white or rich or poor or male or female. It's the first thing everybody wants to know about. Tell me about my love life. Because our partnerships are so critical to us. It is how we express love and how we seek to feel loved. And so the first thing that I will look at in the chart is what is the sign that is over your seventh house? Because the seventh house is the area of love, partnership, and marriage.
And there are, just so people know, there's 12 houses in a natal chart. And the seventh house is
is the one of romance and marriage and things, commitments, romantic commitments. So I'm going to look at that. I'm also going to look at, do you have any planets in the seventh house? And what are they saying? Then I'm going to look at the planet Venus, because Venus is all about love. We know that. So what is this Venus saying? Do they work together? Sometimes we have two very different voices being heard in the chart. The Venus wants to do this. They want something that's wild and exciting in their love life, but their seventh house partnership energy is, wait a minute, I need something that makes me feel secure. And so those energies may be fighting each other, and they may be at odds. How do you find somebody who's a little wild and rebellious, but safe and secure at the same time? So it can often show where we're conflicted and why we're conflicted. And sometimes we'll just pick one. We'll just look at one area of our chart without realizing it. And we'll say, I'm going here. I'm putting my money down on safety and security, and wildness can fall by the wayside. So different things make us feel loved. I once asked my sister, who's been married, I think they just celebrated their 30-year anniversary. And I said, what's romantic to you? And she said something I'll never forget. She said, well, when we were working on a project together and we go to Lowe's and we're buying material for that project. And I was like, really? Going to the hardware store does it for you? Because I'm like candlelight and roses and, love words and music. And I'm like, Lowe's, like, what am I missing here? But she said, it's romantic to me. We're holding hands. We're doing something together. We're strolling along.
Yeah.
It's domestic. That spells romance to her. And so your chart is going to show what makes you feel love. And it's also going to say, how do you express love to somebody else? Because we may be expressing love to somebody else, what feels right for us, but it's not what they need or want. They want it. And, my sister would be horrified if my brother-in-law brought home 2 dozen roses. She'd be like, oh my God, I hope they were in sale. She would just not be a happy camper, where I'd be thrilled. So again, it's going to show, how am I expressing love to somebody else? So I'm going to pick a Virgo, for instance. I don't know what sign you are. I'm just going to pick Virgo. If we pick a Virgo, they have Pisces on the cusp of their house of relationship and marriage. Pisces is a beautiful sign, very loving, very kind. Oh, marshmallow heart, all this hearts and flowers and romance. But Neptune, which is the planet that rules Pisces, it's very nebulous and fuzzy. And when we're younger, we tend to be attracted to the low side or the shadow side of that sign. As we get older and we mature, we kind of find ourselves, we move up and are attracted to the higher side. So if you look at the low side of Pisces, you can get involved with somebody who may have a substance problem, who may want to escape from life, who may have some mental illness. I remember a client of mine telling me she's on a 3rd date with this really nice guy, and he took this pill and she didn't know what it was for. And he said, well, it's to help control my schizophrenia. And she's like, oh, that's a need to know kind of thing. Why did he mention that on the first date? He's schizophrenic. So,
oh, wow.
Pisces. When you have Pisces there, you can fall in love with who you think is your knight on the white horse. But really, you end up being the savior. You end up being the victim. Oh, they're in rehab. They can't work, and you have to work 2 jobs to help support the kids. Mm-hmm. So the high side of Pisces energy is falling in love with somebody who is really meant for you. They get you. They know you. They love who you really are. The person who is over that 7th house of romance is usually opposite our sun, meaning that they're going to bring things to the relationship that we don't have inside of us. Virgo can tend to be a little practical. Pisces can be a little bit of a dreamer. So opposites attract, you bring them together, you balance each other out.
It's so interesting you're using Pisces and Virgo, because I have a Pisces ascendant and my Virgo rules my 7th house. So I'm like the opposite of what you're describing.
Virgo, as I said, it can be a little practical, a little detail oriented. Virgos get a bad rap because they're so detail oriented. They start to look at the details of how is this going to work. And so other people hear that as a criticism, where really they're not trying to criticize, they're trying to process it and understand. But when you put that quality in terms of love, let's say Virgo is on the cusp of the 7th house. I say this in a loving way, Sherry. You can end up being a little critical of a partner. Yes. And so, yeah.
I will own it. I will own it. I have that in me.
So a loving Virgo on the 7th house is going to say, are you going out like that?
Yeah.
Or is that the tie you're wearing? But they're not saying that to hurt you or criticize you. They're saying that because they care. Yeah. If they didn't care about you, they're not going to point out your socks don't match or, your tie is crooked. So when they say something like that, for them, that's an act of love. I love you enough to want the best for you.
Yeah.
But it's not always what the other person hears. Mm-hmm. The other person can sometimes hear, well, I can't ever please you. Something's always wrong.
Yes. Yes. So you have to kind of balance that out with more positive. Yeah.
I always tell people with Virgo in the 7th house, if you're going to say something that could even be remotely considered a criticism, sandwich in between two compliments. Honey, you look fabulous. That shirt brings out the blue in your eyes. Another tie might compliment that even more, but on you, it looks fabulous.
Yeah.
You have to slip in that tweak in the middle.
The sandwich method. Yes. I like it.
The sandwich method of being a Virgo.
I like it. So essentially, I guess, because I don't want us to get for people that are new to astrology, I don't want us to use language that might be confusing. So essentially what we're talking about is if you look at the 12 houses in your chart, the seventh house is going to be across from your first house, which is more about you and your personality, whereas the seventh house is more about how you show up in your relationships and the people you attract into your life. Okay.
If you know your sun sign, and most people know their sun sign, you can Google like sign opposite Libra or sign opposite Virgo. And Google will tell you, if it's Virgo, the sign opposite is Pisces. If you're Libra, the sign opposite is Aries. And then you can start to read up about that sign. So if you're a Libra and the sign in your seventh house is the sign opposite, that's Aries. Libra, Venus is their ruling planet. They want love, they want peace, they want harmony. But with Mars and the strong Aries energy and the Aries relationships, they kind of want like a big, strong person to take care of them or to take charge. Oh, my spouse deals with all of that. I don't have to deal with that, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But then you can go too far over. How much is it, sort of taking care of you? And when is it just controlling you or being too bossy?
Exactly.
So when you read up about that sign that is opposite yours, that's the sign that's going to be over your house of love, partnership, and marriage. And you can start to see, yes, that's the kind of person I've been getting involved with. Or that's exactly how my husband or my wife acts, kind of thing. Because we tend to think of their behavior in personal terms to us. Why do they never listen to me? Or why are they always acting like this? Generally, it's because that's who they are. Not because they're trying to annoy you